You're in tune to another episode of Hotel Revenue Magic, where we go ahead and give you the tools that you need to help you double your revenue. That's our goal, double your hotel revenue. Now, this is the thing. Before we get started, I'm going to need you to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can get all of our episodes every week. So today we're going to be talking about OTA Revenue Management Basics. Now, there's a difference between regular revenue management for transient and then like the OTA side. They're two completely different things. You'll see all the time where, I love this one. A guest will come in to the front desk and they'll say, "What's your rate?" And I guess the front desk agent will say, "Our rate is $100." And the first thing they do is they take out their cell phone and say, "Well, it's $50 on booking.com. Yeah, that happens a lot because what the rack rate and what's available for everyone else online is always two different things for some strange reason. And one of the reasons is that, when you're relying on your own marketing and everything else, that, you want to reap the rewards for that. So you want to keep your rates higher because you don't know who knows the market. Not everybody's online. I mean, not everybody is searching for rates and everything. A majority of our guests are, and they're definitely much more conscious of what's going on in the market. So that goes back into the price matching. So the first thing we want to do when we're doing OTA revenue management is we want to protect the group rate if you have one. So if you have a group rate for, let's say, $60, you really don't want your OTA rates on booking.com, Expedia, or whatever else the case may be. You don't want those rates to go below the group rate, because the reason why you have a group rate is because you don't want to pay, those commissions. If a corporation can just go on booking.com and get a better rate than what your sales manager is going to bring to the table, then why would you need a sales team? Now, with that being said, let's get into what we need. But that's rule number one. Make sure you always protect your group rate. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to focus on our market segment. We need to stay within our market. What do I mean by that? Market segment pretty much puts you in the same market with similar hotels in your area. So if I was a Days Inn, I wouldn't be competing with a Westin or Intercontinental because they're just not in my market. I want to be comparable to other economy hotels that are in my market, because unfortunately the rates for a Days Inn compared to a Westin hotel is going to be very different. A Days Inn may be $60, $70. The Westin may be $150 to $200. So I can't be competing against the Westin because we're two completely different products. So I have to focus on hotels within my market. So you definitely want to make a list of all the hotels that's in your area, that's within your market. Rates are similar, product is similar, services are similar. So let's make a list of everything you have, and then we can go ahead and move forward with what we need to do from revenue management standpoint for OTAs. Now, the third rule is you have to know your competition. Like, if you do not know your competition, you have no idea how this affects everything that you do in this particular business. When you have to know, there's particular things that I know about my competition that they probably don't even know about me. I know I'm always looking at their rates. I'm always visiting their hotels to see what they approved, what they didn't approve. I would actually just check into the hotels just to see their whole process, see what I need to change on my end, and see what their weaknesses are. That's my biggest strength, is identifying weaknesses and capitalizing on it. That's my biggest strength. That's how I've been so successful inside of the hotel industry. The other thing that I do, most importantly, is I always check their reviews. I know the reviews for all the hotels in my market segment because that's a key factor when you're setting your rates, which we'll talk about later on. So other things that I do is I see what they're not doing, so I can go ahead and handle that. I can go ahead and plan around that. And the last thing I do is when I'm reading the reviews, I see the problems that they're having. I use those problems in my marketing, so I know that, okay, cool, they're having this problem and they keep having that problem. Because when they have a problem in the hotel, then what's the first thing the guest is going to do? They're either going to check out, they're going to cancel the reservation, and then they're going to look for the next hotel. If you identify a problem that they're having in your hotel and you put it inside of your marketing, guess what? You're on top of it. You're number one. And that's a whole nother video. So we'll talk about that later in another video. Now, what platform are we going to use? We have to see in order to do this successfully, we have to see what our rates are at our other properties. What platform do we use? Now, there's a bunch of different rate intelligence programs that, different websites have. So a lot of the ones that are really popular is Expedia's rate intelligence program, Booking.com rate intelligence program, and OTA Insight is pretty popular. There's a couple others out there, but what I need to know the room type. Do you want to set the prices across the board for all of your rooms? It depends on the demand. So let's say I see there's an influx, a limited amount of king rooms. All right, cool. I'm going to increase my prices for the king rooms. I tend to make my queen rooms a lot higher just because of cost perspective. I mean, if you have more people in a room, they're using more resources. So I tend to make my double bedrooms, not queen rooms, my double bedrooms higher than my king rooms because the demand is more. Usually the pricing for my double bedrooms and my single bedrooms are different because it depends on the demand. Now, if I'm in an area where, it's probably a business area where they're not looking for a lot of double beds, they're looking for a lot of single beds, then I'm going to raise the price of my king rooms and lower the price of my queen rooms because the demand isn't there. The number one thing when you're dealing with rates and revenue management is supply and demand. Most importantly, demand. If you don't have the demand, the supply is just not there, which is going to cause the market to reduce the rates. There's no such thing as a fixed rate all across the board because just like anything else, if the demand is high, the prices are high. If the demand is low, the pricing is lower. The next thing we're going to get into is judging the demand. Now, the demand, I can always tell who's getting close. It's like reading a board. Like when you're looking at the rates in these different types of programs like OTA Insights or Booking.com Rate Intelligence or Expedia, you can just take a look at the prices and see who's, higher occupancy or lower occupancy, or see who's trying to push the market. For instance, I was just looking at a Holiday Inn. The market segment that I used to work in, their rates right now are extremely low. They're about the $40 to $50 range. But I'm looking at this Holiday Inn and they're pushing a $65 rate. So I know that they're trying to push the market because they're in my market segment. The next thing, I was looking at another hotel who had a $27 rate. Don't ask me how they survive. They have a $27 rate. They also have like a $15 resort fee to supplement it. So they had this $27 rate, and I know that the demand is just low. So I can see that they're trying to lower their rate just so they can collect more reservations to push everybody else out. Now, when I see something like that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm not going to match a $27 rate because I just don't want that type of crowd, inside of my hotel. So I'm going to let them sell out and I'm going to keep my rate higher. I'm not going to match Holiday Inn's rate because then I won't get as many reservations as I would if I lowered my rate. So I want to keep my rate at an equilibrium. I want it to balance out so I can collect reservations and then don't get classified as a roach motel for $27. Lord knows what you're going to get for $27. So those are the key performance indicators, those KPIs that you have to look at when you're setting your rates. You don't want to be too high unless your occupancy is high. So if I was at 50% occupancy, I may raise my rate a little bit, but I'm not going to raise it as much. The higher my occupancy gets, the higher my rate gets because my availability is limited. So my rooms are more valuable because I don't have as many because course my occupancy is getting higher. There's going to be times where you're going to see that there's rooms, their occupancy, they have this crazy rate at $80, and your rate is, or the market rate is like $50. You know what that means. That means that occupancy is so high that they can push for a higher rate. Hotels are very different. Hotels is not just market, it's your occupancy for that hotel. So the more occupancy you have, the higher you can push the rate. The less occupancy you have, the lower your rate is probably going to be until you start collecting more reservations. So that should just give you a gist on what you're looking at when it comes to revenue management. Now let's read some of these boards and take a quick look at this real quick. Now, a couple of things that guests look for when they're booking hotels is they're looking for location, they're looking for price. Location is usually number one. Price is number two. And then, of course, they're looking for quality. That's number three, which is why I always know every hotel around me review score. The reason why I need to know their review score is because I need to know what's going on. Let's say me and the hotel across the street have a $50 rate. They have a 9.5 review score on Booking.com. I have a 7.1 review score on Booking.com. If you were a customer, who are you going to choose? You're going to go with the better quality because of the price. They're both the same. Why not? Why would you choose a 7.1 versus a 9.5 when it comes to quality? So this is what separates me from other revenue managers. This is how I beat other revenue managers that has better skills than I do. When it comes to revenue management, I'm just above average. There's better revenue managers, but because I use the review score as my key performance indicator, I outperform them. Because they're just matching up. They're just matching prices. They're matching the hotel's occupancy. They're matching the hotel's pace. They're not looking at how the guest sees your hotel. This is what the guest sees. So the price isn't really going to matter. Think about location. The hotel that I'm competing against that has the 9.5 review score, they're right across the street. We're in the same location. Okay. Our price is the same. We're both $50. The only other judgment that they're going to make is, of course, it's going to be the review score. Higher review score, better quality, I'm going with this hotel. So when I see things like that, I know I have to lower my price a little bit just to compensate for my lack or what's being left wanting inside of that review score, just so I could get more reservations versus the property across the street. Now, those are some basic tips that you can use when you're doing revenue management for your OTAs. Again, thank you for joining us for another episode of Hotel Revenue Management. Right now, what I need you to do is we have to protect our employees. We have to protect our hotel from crazy guests. There is no difference between managing an insane asylum and managing a hotel because you get the same crazy customers. Not all of our customers are crazy. Not all of our guests are crazy, but we get that 5% that we know probably should be in an insane asylum. You know, that guy that, flips out in the lobby because he didn't get a bigger bar. So, or he didn't get 2 rolls of tissue instead of 1, and now he wants to, fight the front desk and all this other stuff. And then you get all the con artists. So the way we can protect ourselves is by staying united, staying together, and sharing each other's information on a do not rent list. Now, please go to textguest.com where you can actually register and try the do not rent list free for 30 days. Now, you do not have to share your information with other hotels. You can just use the do not rent list so it can be digital, so you can get rid of all of those binders and everything that you got. I hated those binders. Front desk agents, they're not gonna look through all those binders. So you can take care of that. So where they could just plug in a name, and if the guest comes up, you got to hit, that you're not to rent to them. So take a look at that. You also have the option to share the information with other hotels. So go to textguest.com, sign up for the do not rent list for hotels. And again, my name is Bruce Jordan, and you're tuned into another episode of Hotel Revenue Management, and we'll be seeing you soon.